A DPW whistleblower advises caution over the latest water contamination test results. How the mayor's office is responding to the accusations. Thousands of taxpayer dollars approved for sending Rec and Parks employees to a business convention. The reaction from residents. Why an expert says the move lacks common sense. Plus, how the agency is justifying the expense. The truth behind Safe Streets. What we've learned about the lack of oversight over the program.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening. I'm Riel Creighton in for Mary tonight.
I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45 News is investigating problems with the Baltimore City Department of Public Works. It follows the discovery of E. coli in the water in West Baltimore.
DPW's budget for fiscal year 2023 is more than $600 million. The director is one of the highest paid city officials, yet the city sees problem after problem coming out of the department.
We have team coverage tonight as Fox 45 News demands answers and accountability.
We begin with Jeff Abel and the concerns of a whistleblower he brought directly to city leaders. Jeff.
That whistleblower is an employee at the city's Department of Public Works who says he was so concerned about this latest water crisis, he came to us and just had to talk. And tonight, the city is responding.
There is a culture of retaliation against anyone within the Department of Public Works who speaks up and says that they have concerns about any processes.
The DPW employee says politics, not science, is fueling decisions at the agency, even down to the latest probe into dirty water in West Baltimore.
This is not something that can be hidden and one tweet will take care of it.
In an interview on Wednesday, the employee complained that the test results of the city's water may not be accurate because the city's process isn't always random.
I think I compare it to doing a poll. If you're always polling the same people, you tend to get the same answers.
But in a written response today, the mayor's office stood by its process, writing that the 90 testing locations are statistically located based on the hydraulics of the system to capture the performance of the entire distribution system. The employee also complained that to allay any concerns, the city should bring a firm independent of the city to perform the water probe. But in response, a city spokeswoman told us today that the Maryland Department of Environment certifies DPW labs to ensure standard protocols and procedures are followed. We also use outside laboratories, which are certified by MDE, to assist with additional testing. We are confident city water is safe, she wrote. All protocol prescribed by the state is followed and DPW is fully compliant. But not everyone seems convinced, especially this employee who says the city's questionable handling of results in other water emergencies is raising concerns about the handling of this one.
Sounds like the bare minimum that is now being put in place because this has been put out publicly.
Well, the employee also maintains that if the city would have notified the public much earlier in this process, then the investigation would be much farther along. We are live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. As we mentioned, DPW's budget is more than $600 million to provide essential services to the city. However, we have seen several failures and mistakes come from the department. In March of this year, the state environmental officials came in and took control of a city-owned backwater wastewater treatment plant in Dundalk. Residents had complained about solids floating in the water. Well, state investigators also say that they have received reports of staff sleeping, sitting around, watching TV while on the job. Plus, Fox 45 has heard from several residents over the past several years with water bills in the thousands, with no clear reason why. The city has said that some of these residents have past due bills, but the majority of the residents that we have spoken to point to broken pipes.
And it's not just water the Department of Public Works has struggled with. Baltimore City has an ongoing problem with trash and recycling pickup. Residents have complained about garbage and recycling left on city streets and illegal dumping in alleys. Weekly recycling pickup stopped during the pandemic in 2020, and the department has yet to continue regular weekly pickup. Now, some Baltimore City leaders are demanding change. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker continues our team coverage with the action they plan to take.
City council members say they plan to bring the agency in front of them for a hearing. They say there are many questions that demand answers.
How could they sleep at night knowing that they put an entire community in West Baltimore at risk?
As Baltimore's contaminated water crisis continues,
It's unfortunate that DPW simply couldn't do their most routine function and just communicate.
District 5 Councilman Yitzi Schleifer is fed up and demanding accountability from the Department of Public Works.
DPW decided to not only wait, but once they finally decided to put out the message that there's possible contaminants in the water, they chose to do that in a tweet as opposed to all the other channels that are typically done to get a message out.
And with that, I will turn it over to Director Mitchell for that information.
Jason Mitchell came to Baltimore last year to lead the agency and is one of the city's highest paid officials with a yearly salary of $245,000. We asked Schleifer if he still has confidence in Mitchell's ability to lead.
I have little to no confidence in the agency as a whole. They are responsible for our most core, basic, day-to-day life functions, and they fail to even do the most routine things.
We also asked the mayor yesterday what action, if any, he plans to take against Mitchell.
We have taken a lot of action.
Ignoring the question, a spokesperson for Scott later told us he does have confidence in Mitchell.
I think their communication was extremely poor. I think that they needed to be more transparent.
First District Councilman Zeke Cohen is also looking for answers.
Just from a crisis communication standpoint, I think this was really unacceptable on the part of DPW.
Both councilmen say the city council plans to bring Mitchell in for a hearing to investigate the crisis and the communication surrounding it further.
It's going to happen as soon as possible. What we found with DPW far too often is that there is zero transparency. And so the public deserves to have the agency come before us and answer questions that they failed to answer to the media and that they failed to answer us when we've called them and asked them.
I think it's really important that we pull that agency in front of us and in front of the council, in front of the city, and make sure they understand that they need to improve in that facet of the work.
Councilman Bullock, whose district this crisis is unfolding in, also confirming that a hearing will happen. We asked him when that will take place and are waiting to hear back. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
And this brings us to our question of the day. Do you have confidence in the Scott administration to handle a crisis of this magnitude? So far, 100% of those who have voted say no. Vote right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
A violent start to the school year for Baltimore City Public Schools. Today, a Connections Academy student was arrested for carrying a handgun outside the school. Today's arrest comes less than a week after a 17-year-old was killed outside Merville High School and a day after a 15-year-old was shot near Carver High.
Questions about how Baltimore City is spending taxpayer money now that the Department of Rec and Parks is paying tens of thousands of dollars for more than a dozen of its employees to attend a convention. Keith Daniels spoke with experts, residents, and the department about this spending. He joins us now live with a closer look.
Well, Riel, last year the director took himself and 6 staff members to a convention in Nashville, Tennessee. The price tag for that trip, $12,000. And tonight, word of another trip with more staffers at nearly 3 times the cost of the last trip. Leisure in the park, residents and recreation in Baltimore City. Erica and Sarah on the court for a game. Interrupted.
It's just a conference. They'll be fine.
By what they've learned about the city's Department of Recreation and Parks.
I think there's value on meeting people face to face.
Reginald Moore, Director of Recreation of Parks, is taking 15 staff members with him to the National Recreation and Park Association Convention in Phoenix later this month. As reported by the Baltimore Brew and confirmed by Fox 45 News, the 4-day trip price, $33,000, including travel, food, and hotel.
This is a waste of taxpayer money. This shouldn't have happened.
David Williams is with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance.
Ultimately, the taxpayers are the ones that are getting shortchanged here, because when you spend $30,000 for a convention and flying people out to Phoenix or wherever, that's money that's not staying in Baltimore or going to help the people of Baltimore.
The expenditure comes at a time when the mayor's administration has embraced performance measures that include practicing responsible stewardship of city resources. Also, when city agencies have been asked to cut their budgets by 10%. But for residents like Erica, the trip...
It's okay. Like, maybe they've already paid for it when they received the budget cuts, or maybe the money's already allocated.
We sent questions to the agency asking, why does the director believe this $33,000 trip to a convention is a good use of taxpayer funds? Why not attend the convention virtually, which is an option to save money? And why must 15 staff members attend? A spokesperson with Rex and Parks responded to each of our questions, in summary saying, we must ensure that our staff are adequately educated and prepared for Baltimore's ever-changing recreational needs. We have staff that have been invited to present at the convention, and in-person presentations are required. Going on to say, our agency has employees with a wide range of skills. Sending one person to NRPA would not be beneficial.
Let's be clear, this is a junket. There's no other way of putting it. This is a junket for 15 people.
Well, the agency's director also came under fire recently when he hired a convicted felon to serve as a youth athletic recreation supervisor. He made that hire without notifying human resources officials. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. This is just the latest controversial trip that the city has spent money on. Last month, City Council President, along with some other members of the City Council, attended the Maryland Association of Counties Conference in Ocean City. The city spent more than $3,000 for Nick Mosby to attend, more than double the amount his colleagues had requested.
The world mourns the loss of England's Queen Elizabeth. You're taking a live look from Buckingham Palace on the left side of your screen. It's the middle of the night, but you can see there are visitors paying their respects. On the right, at the White House and across America, flags are at half-staff in honor of the Queen. Queen Elizabeth was 96 years old. She reigned for 70 years, making her the longest-serving monarch in British history. Buckingham Palace will enter an all-hands protocol that was set up in the 1960s. It details the procedure for the first 10 days after the Queen's passing. The Queen's eldest son, Charles, is now King Charles III. The plan aims for a smooth transition between the monarchs. Now, we expect King Charles will deliver a national broadcast sometime in the coming days. For the next 10 days, ministers will plan a remembrance ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral. Parliament's other business will be suspended. The Queen's funeral will take place the 10th day at Westminster Abbey. The Queen will be buried at King George VI Memorial Chapel after lying in state at Buckingham Palace.
When it comes to King Charles, while he has risen to the throne, a coronation is not expected to take place for several months. His mother, the late Queen, waited for 14 months for what is traditionally a celebratory occasion. The Queen made a few visits to Maryland in her life. She attended a University of Maryland football game in 1957 and an Orioles game in 1991. You can find more on Queen Elizabeth's life and the royal family's ties to Maryland on our website at foxbaltimore.com.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, our investigation into the Safe Streets program continues. Why Fox 45 demands accountability and transparency. A Baltimore woman shares her story with Fox 45 News, saying the contaminated water in Baltimore made her sick. How that contradicts what we were told by DPW.
Dry skies and comfortably cool temperatures in the morning tomorrow, working our way into the 80s again with sunshine tomorrow afternoon. I'll let you know, though, when rain could be a part of our forecast and if it impacts your weekend plans in my Weather Authority forecast.
A battle over safety versus censorship in Washington, D.C. Why some say big tech companies are creating a dangerous new trend. While Baltimore leadership touts the Safe Streets program and other community-based intervention programs as part of the key to changing the culture of violence, the reality is less than clear.
The effectiveness of Safe Streets, the data says, is inconclusive. As Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost shows us, the accountability and transparency from Mayor Scott's administration about this program that uses more than $1 million a year is unclear.
We started doing these accountability desk stories to keep you updated on our investigations and walk you through each step. And I want to show you where we are in terms of our investigation into the program, Safe Streets. This is MONSE. It's the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And it's the agency that oversees the implementation of programs like Safe Streets. And running this is Shantae Jackson. So, well, Jackson is the director of MONSE, which oversees a few different programs, including Safe Streets, but it also looks at the group violence reduction strategy, as well as the expanded community violence intervention programs. What that expansion really looks like isn't clear from the city, but we do know that right now we're really digging into Safe Streets, and that's what I want to show you more of. Now, there are 10 Safe Streets locations scattered all across the city, right? Each one is connected to a different community-based organization or a CBO, but the city is still responsible for the oversight and implementation of these Safe Streets locations, and that's where the MONSE agency comes into play. But according to this April report done by the city itself, it says that MONSE is responsible, quote, for the monitoring and oversight of CBOs and their partners to ensure professional management of all aspects of Safe Streets Baltimore. Now, we know, according to the city's budget and in this report, the city gave itself $1.5 million for the Safe Streets program this year to operate it. The report also says that no American Rescue Plan dollars were used. That's the federal COVID relief money. But we do know that the American Rescue Plan money was used to reorganize office staff, and those staff members will then oversee the implementation of Safe Streets. Now, the problem is we've really struggled to get information out of the city as well as these community-based organizations about this program, despite your tax dollars going to help run it. Now, in this report, it also says that the workers at these locations, which the city calls violence interrupters, are typically working during, quote, high crime times. But as we know in Baltimore, that could really mean at any time. Now, the report also talks about leadership at these locations, and let me read you one of the quotes that it says. It says site directors are typically there during business hours. Now, listen, we went into every single one of these Safe Streets locations, and that's not exactly what we found. Now, at the beginning of this, the mayor's office told us to go to the community-based organizations for information. But then the CBOs instead said no, we needed to go to the mayor's office for details. And now everything has to be funneled through MONSE. But our emails to that city agency usually go ignored. So let me show you what we're looking for and the questions we're sending to the community-based organizations as we go forward. This is what's next. These organizational charts from the community-based organizations showing how it works. Who are the employees at the Safe Streets locations and who are their supervisors? Who does the training for the Safe Streets employees? When does it take place? And what's the budget? Now, the city has been less than transparent as we continue to do this investigation. This is just one email that I got back when I asked for public records from MONSE as well as Shantae Jackson to see what these public officials were saying about Fox 45 as we continue to do this investigation. While the city may not want to give us the information, we won't stop digging, but that's where I need your help. If you have any information that you think we need to know, email me directly at safestreetstips@gmail.com. At the accountability desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, Mother Nature finally getting some sunshine in the mix after clouds this morning, a gradual clearing trend today, and then tonight, tomorrow, really good looking, but the clouds may start coming back in, maybe a rain chance or two for the weekend as well. A beautiful look at M&T Bank Stadium. Of course, our game not here this weekend, but there's going to be a lot of partying around town by the end of the weekend, I'm sure. BWI at 68 at Aberdeen, 71 in Annapolis. And East and Westminster mid to upper 60s. There's the rain that's been plaguing us for days, moving down to the south and away. So the bus stop forecast bathed in sunshine, pretty much drop off lunchtime, pickup time all day. Actually, all the way from sunrise to sunset. Going to see sunshine temperatures very comfortable tomorrow. I'm going to let you know how long that lasts and when that rain is going to move back in. My Weather Authority forecast.
Started with nausea and vomiting, and then the diarrhea, the fatigue, the weakness.
Fox 45 News hears from a Baltimore woman who says the contaminated water made her sick. How that contradicts what we've heard from DPW.
In Washington, a battle over security versus censorship. I'm Christine Frizzell with a closer look at what some are now calling a dangerous trend.
Governor Larry Hogan appeared on Fox's America's Newsroom today. The governor talked about his recent trip to Portland, Oregon, and why he believes crime will be a big topic that leads voters to vote for Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections.
It's a poster child for far-left policies run amok. People doing hard drugs that are now legalized all over the streets are homeless people. It's causing tremendous amounts, 207% increase in violent crime. Most people are focused in on Oregon as a potential pickup for Republicans. I'm telling you, it could happen.
Well, new concerns tonight that calls for big tech companies to censor information online are becoming less of a rare occurrence and more of a trend.
National correspondent Christine Frizzell takes a closer look.
At the center of the storm, the laptop that belonged to the son of a presidential candidate and the reports that followed in the New York Post. The initial story detailing Hunter Biden's personal life and business dealings was at first blocked entirely on Twitter, with sharing restricted on Facebook. The company's founder recently explaining why.
The FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, you should be on high alert.
While those warnings were not orders, there are concerns of more direct lines of communication between the government and tech giants. Where polls show more than half of Americans were getting their news.
If the New York Times or the Washington Post or the New York Post puts something up in the ordinary course, you can disagree with it, but it's still out there to be seen. In this case, it was made to disappear.
Some argue the extraordinary move was justified so as not to follow in the same path as the Hillary Clinton email scandal in 2016.
We're going to open up this laptop from hell. Is going to be conceivably just a nuclear bomb of an October surprise. And we're going to get 4 more years of Trump.
While the Hunter Biden stories have now been accepted as accurate, both the FBI and members of Congress have made the case that limiting the spread of misinformation is necessary for the safety and security of Americans.
The Americans are demanding that we step in and rein in your platforms.
With the tidal wave of Russian disinformation disguised as fact, Democrats on Capitol Hill say more needs to be done to prevent it from spreading, while others say what's happening now is an overreaction that is now morphed into censorship. Journalist Glenn Greenwald tweeting, Democrats routinely abuse their power to coerce big tech silencing of their opponents and dissent. Social media now back in the spotlight, with recent revelations of how decisions by the government factor into how those platforms perform. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Another person falls victim to gun violence in Baltimore. A look at the impact rising crime is having here in the city and across the country.
More Americans turning to credit to keep up with the rising cost of groceries. I'm Atrell Nashar with why changing behavior could make inflation worse.
Our top story at 10:30. Thousands of people in West Baltimore still under a boil water advisory tonight because of ongoing water contamination.
Yeah, the Department of Public Works first told the public of the E. coli contamination Monday, but it's still not clear where it came from.
Tonight, we are hearing about a possible illness tied to the contamination, which goes against what DPW said just last night. Fox 45's Amy Simpson explains.
A Baltimore woman contacted us after hearing city leaders say earlier this week that nobody had gotten sick from the contaminated water. Meanwhile, her mom lives just outside of that initial impact zone.
Didn't have any appetite.
For Denise Brown, it started last Tuesday.
Started with nausea and vomiting, and then the diarrhea, the fatigue, the weakness. Couldn't stand on my legs because I was so weak.
And for a week, she stayed home, trying to treat symptoms on her own.
And I thought I had a stomach virus.
But this West Baltimore woman,
and I was just out of it,
lives just a few blocks from the city's Western District Police Station, where today a fire hydrant continues to flush water down the street. City leaders say this is the spot to test positive for contaminants twice within the last week.
My neighbor said, "Miss Denise, don't drink the water." And I'm like, what's going on? And they started telling me about the E. coli thing.
By Tuesday of this week, when symptoms persisted, Miss Denise says she finally went to the emergency room.
I just couldn't take it no more.
Her paperwork from a visit on September 6th shows she was dealing with abdominal pain, vomiting, and diarrhea. The doctor's notes say she was unable to give a stool sample.
And the doctor said the same thing.
And given her normal blood work, the doctor wrote that, quote, E. coli is less likely the cause.
They told me it was moving through my system.
But under these circumstances, Miss Denise believes otherwise.
Yes, I do. I had all the symptoms.
Particularly given her location and daily use of water.
For cooking, bathing, brushing my teeth, washing dishes, cleaning. Not now. I'm boiling all my water or I'm using bottled water. I'm scared to use the water, even to bathe in.
She says she's frustrated that the news of contaminated water wasn't announced until Monday.
That's like a little too late.
And frustrated to hear city leaders say nobody has gotten sick.
It's not true. If you come around here and you talk to each and every one of these neighbors, you will find out that they have been sick. They just didn't go to the hospital. They took care of it themselves at home.
Thankfully, Miss Denise is on the mend now. A week and a half later.
They say bathe in it, the doctors say don't.
But it will take time for her to have confidence using the water once again.
Tell people the truth about this water issue and stop waiting. They knew what was going on, but they waited.
Now, yesterday afternoon, the city's health commissioner did say they're investigating 2 possible cases of illness and whether or not they're linked to the E. coli contamination. But so far tonight, no update on those cases or if any others have come forward. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News. Well, if you think that you may have been exposed to E. coli, it is important to completely boil your water. Just warming it will not be enough. You should avoid eating or drinking with contaminated water before boil, but showering or doing laundry is just fine, say experts. E. coli symptoms usually begin to show up between 2 and 4 days after exposure and include stomach cramps, fever, diarrhea, and vomiting.
Baltimore police are investigating after a 31-year-old man is shot in southeast Baltimore. Police say he was shot in the chest along North Chapel Street just before 7 o'clock tonight, but he is expected to recover. Murders and non-fatal shootings are up both considerably this year, and those aren't the only crime stats rising. Carjackings are up 51% year to date. Convenience store robberies are up 290%. Aggravated assaults are up 4%. Overall, violent crime is up 15%. Gun violence is high nationwide. In fact, 1 in 4 U.S. adults fears being attacked in their own neighborhood. That, according to a new poll by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Harvard T.H. School of Public Health, and NPR. Now, the revelation comes as crime remains a top concern across the country. Some critics think judges and jurisdictions are being too soft on crime, telling criminals it's open season.
What's happening is criminals feel emboldened to just go ahead and frankly do things that they wouldn't have done 5 or 10 years ago.
Well, we've heard similar criticism of Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Many critics say her prosecution policies embolden criminals and give the message that you can get away with crime in Baltimore.
Armed carjackers, people who carry illegal weapons, people who commit prior homicides, go on to commit more homicides. That's just a fact. And the fact that the state's attorney's office is not prosecuting them to the full extent of the law is not only concerning, it's costing people lives.
The lack of accountability. I hear people that live in different states and say, if you want to shoot somebody or kill somebody, come to Baltimore.
A student has died during football practice at Randallstown High School in Baltimore County. The school's principal says the child was in 11th grade and suffered some sort of a medical emergency on the field. For those struggling with the loss, support staff and additional counselors were made available today at the school.
The United States financial situation is not in good condition. At least that's what Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell believes, saying while he can't talk about specific policy, Congress is spending too much.
Our federal fiscal policy is not on a sustainable path, and it really hasn't been for some time. And we will need to get back to a sustainable path sooner or later. To your point, sooner is better than later.
Powell became chair in 2018. At that time, the bank was purchasing trillions of dollars in assets in addition to keeping interest rates low to stimulate the economy. Powell has been working for months to trim that down and raise rates, all in pursuit of tackling inflation. Well, to deal with inflation, many are getting creative with how and where they spend their money. Sometimes that means cutting back on discretionary spending to cover the cost of necessities like groceries or turning to credit cards. Sinclair national correspondent Atra El-Nashar has a look at the changing behavior.
For more and more Americans, buy now, pay later is how they keep food on the table. Services like Zip and Klarna reporting an increase in grocery purchases as food at home prices are more than 13% higher than they were last year. Some changing where they shop to get a better price. This wholesale grocery warehouse in San Antonio, Texas, is getting more customers who buy in bulk and split with neighbors.
You can only absorb the costs so much, and we're seeing higher costs across the board.
Overall inflation, currently at 8.5%, taking a toll on a growing share of Americans. A new Gallup survey finds 56% of Americans say rising prices are causing hardship, compared to 49% who said that in January. Getting 8.5% inflation down to 2% is the Federal Reserve's top focus.
The Fed has and accepts responsibility for price stability.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell says people coming to expect these high prices could make their job of price stability more difficult.
The longer inflation remains well above target, the greater the risk that the public does begin to see higher inflation as the norm. And that has the capacity to really raise the costs of getting inflation down.
Former Fed Chair, now Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calling inflation unacceptably high Thursday from a Ford factory in Michigan. But with gas prices still elevated, Yellen touting the administration's support of electric vehicle production.
And insulate us from the type of fossil fuel-driven energy volatility we've seen in the past year.
For many, the cost of an EV is still out of reach. Johns Hopkins' Steve Hanke predicts the recent decline in gas prices will reverse and remain unstable from Western sanctions on Russia.
They've so disrupted the international oil market that this will take years before that gets sorted out.
That may apply for elevated prices across the board. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
A Howard County school special education teacher has been arrested in Baltimore County on charges of possession and distribution of child pornography. 32-year-old Lawrence Costella taught at Athelton High School. He is now on administrative leave. Police do not believe he had any inappropriate contact with children. In Cecil County, Maryland State Police arrested 45-year-old Brian Wild, accused of possessing child pornography. Maryland State Police say they made that arrest yesterday after they received a tip from his probation officer.
A bankruptcy judge has approved a $2.46 billion reorganization plan for the Boy Scouts of America. The plan allows the organization to keep operating and settles claims from more than 80,000 men who say that they were abused by troop leaders as children. The Boy Scouts filed for bankruptcy more than 2 years ago after being hit with a flood of lawsuits alleging child sexual abuse. Lawyers for the victims say that the amount an individual survivor gets from the bankruptcy plan will depend on factors relating to the abuse. Meantime, for 51 years, Montgomery County authorities have struggled to solve the murder of a deputy sheriff. Now police say that they have arrested a New York man for the 1971 killing. Investigators still don't have a motive for this crime, but as Kevin Lewis with our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. reports, they suspect it comes down to a botched robbery.
For 51 years, his murder had gone unsolved.
On the night of October 23, 1971, Montgomery County Deputy Sheriff James Hall was working a part-time security gig at the Manor Country Club in Rockville. He was found shot on the parking lot pavement and died days later.
How are you?
Today, police announced they'd charged 70-year-old Larry David Smith of upstate New York with the killing.
To obtain a confession for someone who committed a crime 51 years ago is a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment.
Investigators believe Captain Hall stumbled upon Smith, then 19, lugging stolen items to a car in the golf course parking lot. Those items were linked to a nearby home break-in. Sheriff Darren Popkin.
Having grown up in Aspen Hill, very close to where this homicide occurred, I remember the shock and sadness in the community when Jim was taken from us.
Last October, cold case investigators started re-examining evidence. That included sending old audio tapes to the FBI for conversion.
Dug through every inch of every case file. They did interviews. They went over old interviews. They spoke to previous investigators who spent a lot of time and effort on this case.
We're so happy.
Hall's daughter and son, now in their late 70s and early 80s, encouraged others to always have hope.
I never thought this case would be solved. It has been. And anybody out there that wants to be bad, just remember that.
A drug sting turns into a high-speed chase in Baltimore County. Now federal authorities are looking for the suspect. How you can help find the fugitive. Strong words from Las Vegas police over the deadly attack on a journalist. Police say it's a wake-up call for law enforcement and media nationwide. A drug sting turns into a high-speed chase through Baltimore County. Now, federal authorities have joined the search for a fugitive wanted in the multi-state narcotics ring. Alexa Ashwell has this week's Maryland's Most Wanted.
Authorities say this man helped pump drugs into local communities throughout the greater Baltimore region. Joseph Parker is wanted on drug trafficking charges. Authorities say he led police on a high-speed chase when they tried to arrest him. Now the U.S. Marshal Service needs your help tracking him down.
June 2022, Baltimore County's Nottingham community. Investigators say 41-year-old Joseph Donta Parker is sitting inside of his car, waiting as a USPS driver places a package on the front step of a home, and unaware police are watching.
And as part of this joint investigation, they conducted an undercover operation.
Inside the package is 8 pounds of PCP, a highly addictive hallucinogen. Drugs police discovered were being shipped into Maryland through the mail as part of a multi-state drug trafficking ring.
So it was coming in from out of state. How long do you believe that activity was going on before MSP intercepted?
For somebody to ship over 8 pounds of PCP through the mail, that shows you just how comfortable they are with the processes they have in place and the belief that they're not going to get caught.
On this day, police determined to dismantle the ring. Investigators say Parker retrieves the package, gets back into his car, and begins to drive off. That's when police move in.
Officers, they pulled behind him and they attempted to stop him. He took them on a high-speed chase.
But Parker takes off, leading police on a pursuit.
He was spinning his wheels and driving erratically.
That became so dangerous, officers were forced to call off the chase. Parker gets away and hasn't been seen for nearly 3 months.
The leads have run dry.
Al Maresca is the deputy marshal with the U.S. Marshals Service. He says Parker is from Columbia, Maryland, but also has ties to Baltimore County and has an extensive criminal history.
It's very important to understand that this individual has a history going all the way back to 1996 that includes drug arrests, weapons possessions.
Maresca on the ring, accused of pumping poison into local communities. Drugs, he says, often leading to violence.
While the drugs may be a social ill, the violence and the crime that comes with those drugs is a problem that we need to lay to rest immediately. Wherever there's drugs, there's guns. Wherever there's guns, there's the potential for violence.
Investigators stressing Parker must be brought to justice.
There is absolutely reason to believe he's continuing to participate in an ongoing criminal enterprise.
Take a good look. Parker stands at about 5'9" and weighs approximately 200 pounds. Again, authorities believe he's still in the greater Baltimore region. So if you have any information to his whereabouts, you can contact the tip line number right here, 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact Maresca directly. His number right here, 202-819-5058. Remember, you can always remain anonymous and you could earn a reward. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
All right, taking a beautiful look downtown at the Toyota, or rather the M&T Bank Stadium here on the Toyota East Harbor Skycam. We've got 68 degrees. Winds are calm. It's actually a really nice feel to things. The dew point's not too high at 62 degrees. That's our measure of moisture in the air. When that's near 60, it doesn't feel so bad. Our humidity at 81%. And taking a look at the HD radar, finally, not even really a cloud around. We've got a few showers, but you really have to get far south to get there. Down into the Carolinas as well as into Florida, and then way west into the Midwestern U.S. and all the way up into Canada. Some of these showers and storms, though, that are down to the south, those could bubble up and head our way once again, perhaps over the weekend for weekend plans. And of course, we do have the final weekend of the Maryland State Fair, and especially Sunday, some impacts could be seen there. So you may have to have some alternate rain plans by then. Temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, near 70 right now, probably heading down into the upper 50s to right around 60 by early tomorrow morning. Could already see in some of the mountainous areas, we've got some 50s and 60s, higher elevations. Near 70 here in Baltimore, near 70 down at Richmond, and low to mid 70s, Roanoke to Norfolk. Now, tomorrow, with sunshine coming back at us, that's going to help to bring those temperatures up once again. The showers from Atlanta southbound, again, we're going to have to keep some tabs on those. They may make a return visit our way. But for now, we are drying out. But there are those showers I was talking about. Friday, just in time for them to go down to the south. Yep, on Saturday, they're starting to move back to the north. So I think Saturday is going to be a dry day, but Sunday there could be at least some chance of rain in the forecast. Now, Earl out in the tropics, this is a Category 2 hurricane. Winds at about 105, we'll say about 100 to 105 miles an hour right now. This moving to the north and east right by Bermuda, giving some pretty high seas, but I don't think direct impacts. And then eventually out, just affecting the fish in the North Atlantic. 60% chance tropical development. This has actually dropped off by about 10% on both the 2 and 5 day time frame, but still looking pretty healthy here. I think there's some wind shear impacting that one. And then there's also a 30% chance of development out of this blob of clouds down to the south and east of that. That disturbance, again, over the next several days may gradually form into a little something. But again, it's still several thousand miles away from us. Here in the future scan, it's looking good. We've got temperatures settling down into the 50s to near 60 by tomorrow morning. By 8 a.m., we're already recovering a bit. And notice by tomorrow afternoon, 78 degrees here in Baltimore at noontime, 78 at Cockeysville, 75 at Annapolis, and under full sunshine, right about 80 to 85. Just a perfect top 10 type of day. If you can get out to the Maryland State Fair tomorrow, that'll be the day to do it. And Saturday, not bad either. 60 degrees, mostly clear skies, seasonable for tonight. 82 with lots of sunshine coming for tomorrow. 81 on Saturday as clouds increase during the afternoon. Then Sunday, showers will be developing, I think, later on in the day especially. But even in the morning, there could be some shower chance. I think better rain chances later, though. And then on Monday, showers and storms that last into Tuesday before it dries out again well into next week.
Ahead on the late edition, remembering the life of Queen Elizabeth, how her rare appearances in Maryland still resonate with us. It's Thursday everywhere else, but at Morgan State, the Bears celebrated a Monday. The man the university tabbed to be its new head wrestling coach, coming up.
The NFL preseason is about the roster battles and players getting the work they need. The regular season is all about putting the best players out on the field to win games. This Sunday will mark the first time in about 8 months that many of the Ravens' top guys have taken the field in a game-like setting. While Lamar Jackson, Calais Campbell, and other big names did not play a single preseason game, the work they put in during camp prepared them for Week 1 against the Jets.
You really don't know what you're going to be
until you go out there and play a football game. And so, it's a little different, in the regular season, week one. So I think we have to establish our identity, figure out who we're going to be. But, I think that we're going to be ready to go. I ain't no doubts about it. We're ready to go. I saw a lot of guys competing, a lot of plays being made today. And, come Sunday, so you got to show it. But at the end of the day, I have no doubt in my mind that we're ready to go play football.
Well, despite popular opinion, Mondays don't always stink. Morgan State will bring back wrestling beginning in 2023, and they've tabbed Kenny Monday as their new head coach. He's an Olympic gold medalist, National Wrestling Hall of Famer. Now he'll lead the way for the Bears as they make their return to the mat.
After 25 years, wrestling is back at Morgan State. I'm so excited. Was really brokenhearted when it dropped the program back in '96. I'm excited about this opportunity. It's been a long process, and I'm so excited to get back to work.
So coming up tonight, a look at where the O's stand in the wild card race with 25 games left. Plus, we're talking Ravens as kickoff quickly approaches when Sports Unlimited returns.
Ahead on the late edition, the mayor's office responds to a whistleblower's comment on DPW failures. How city leaders are backing up their test results. The third week and final of the state fair kicked off tonight. You can meet your favorite Fox 45 news anchors, reporters, and meteorologists on the last day of the fair on Sunday. Make sure you stop by and say hi.
This seems like there was a decision made within the notification process of the Department of Public Works to triage people and their health based upon their zip code and their role.
Pushback tonight from the mayor's office after a former DPW worker's exclusive interview with Fox 45. How city leaders are refuting the whistleblower's points. DPW workers say no one got sick from the contaminated water, but residents imply that's not the truth. One West Baltimore woman shares why some in her neighborhood aren't willing to report their illness. And a live look right now at a somber Buckingham Palace as we reflect on the life of Queen Elizabeth II. Fox 45 News pays tribute to Britain's longest-serving monarch.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News Late Edition.
Thank you for joining us on Fox 45. I'm Kai Jackson. As parts of Baltimore remain under a boil water advisory, Fox 45 is pressing the Department of Public Works on multiple aspects of that response, from testing policies to the role of DPW's current director. Here's where the boil water advisory stands. That small rectangle you see on the screen outlines the original impact area in West Baltimore, while the larger dotted line represents areas still under that advisory after the latest round of testing. Tonight, Mayor Brandon Scott's office is responding to claims made by a DPW whistleblower who says DPW picks and chooses their testing locations where they know tests will come back negative. Fox 45's Jeff Fable has that story.
The whistleblower is an employee at the city's Department of Public Works who was so concerned about this latest water crisis he came to us wanting to talk. And tonight, the city's responding.
There is a culture of retaliation against anyone within the Department of Public Works who speaks up and says that they have concerns about any processes.
The DPW employee says politics, not science, is fueling decisions at the agency, even down to the latest probe into dirty water in West Baltimore.
This is not something that can be hidden and one tweet will take care of it.
In an interview on Wednesday, the employee complained that the test results of the city's water may not be accurate because the city's process isn't always random.
I think I compare it to doing a poll. If you're always polling the same people, you tend to get the same answers.
But in a written response today, the mayor's office stood by its process, writing that the 90 testing locations are statistically located based on the hydraulics of the system to capture the performance of the entire distribution system. The employee also complained that to allay any concerns, the city should bring a firm independent of the city to perform the water probe. But in response, a city spokeswoman told us today that the Maryland Department of Environment certifies DPW labs to ensure standard protocols and procedures are followed. We also use outside laboratories, which are certified by MDE, to assist with additional testing. We are confident city water is safe, she wrote. All protocol prescribed by the state is followed, and DPW is fully compliant. But not everyone seems convinced, especially this employee who says the city's questionable handling of results in other water emergencies is raising concerns about the handling of this one.
Sounds like the bare minimum that is now being put in place because this has been put out publicly.
That employee also maintains that if the city would have notified the public much earlier in the process about the crisis, then the investigation would be much farther along. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
DPW leaders are touting improvement in the E. coli testing process, citing only 2 possible E. coli tests, but neither have been confirmed. City leaders have gone as far as saying as no one got sick from the contaminated water. But Baltimore residents tell a different story. Many say they've exhibited E. coli symptoms since well before the first positive test came back. In fact, a woman named Miss Denise says people don't always have the resources or knowledge to find out what's ailing them.
My neighbor said, Miss Denise, don't drink the water. And I'm like, what's going on? And they start telling me about the E. coli thing. If you come around here and you talk to each and every one of these neighbors, you will find out that they have been sick. They just didn't go to the hospital. They took care of it themselves at home.
Well, Ms. Denise says she's on the mend right now, but it will take time for her and hundreds of other Baltimore residents to have confidence in the water supply again.
Thank our city agencies, our county agencies.
Well, tonight, some Baltimore city leaders are demanding accountability from the Department of Public Works. The DPW director is one of the highest paid officials in Baltimore. One city councilman plans to hold a hearing to investigate the water crisis and the communication surrounding it. Fox 45 is also following a new report that claims the Department of Rec and Parks is paying tens of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money for a handful of employees to attend a convention. The price tag for the 4-day trip to Phoenix, Arizona is $33,000. The mayor's office has embraced performance measures that include practicing responsible stewardship of city resources. Taxpayer experts say it's a waste of money, but residents who spoke to Fox 45 don't seem to mind.
Ultimately, the taxpayers are the ones that are getting shortchanged here, because when you spend $30,000 for a convention and flying people out to Phoenix or wherever, that's money that's not staying in Baltimore or going to help the people of Baltimore.
It's okay. Like, maybe they've already paid for it when they received the budget cuts, or maybe the money's already allocated.
Well, Fox 45 News asked the director a few questions, including why the trip is necessary and why the agency isn't choosing to attend virtually. A spokesperson says a large group is necessary to show the department's diverse skills, and they want to prepare for Baltimore's, quote, ever-changing recreational needs.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
We are learning more about a student arrested outside of a West Baltimore school with a loaded handgun this afternoon. The incident happened at Connections Academy, a charter school for students grades 6 through 12. Police shared this image of the gun. They've already seized more than a dozen guns at Baltimore City schools in 2022. This is the first reported confiscation of the new school year. Well, today's arrest comes less than a week after a 17-year-old was killed outside of Mervo High School, and a day after a 15-year-old was shot near Carver Vocational High. Kai?
Riel, thank you. A student died during football practice at Randallstown High School in Baltimore County. The school's principal says the child was in the 11th grade and suffered some sort of medical emergency on the field. For those struggling with the loss, support staff and additional counselors will be made available at school. Well, still ahead on Fox 45, remembering the life of Queen Elizabeth II. Leaders old and new reflect on her lasting impact around the world.
And it looks like if you're headed to the State Fair tomorrow, a full day, action-packed and sunshine coming too. Temperature's going to be in the mid to upper 70s to near 80. Nice and dry, low humidity. I'm going to let you know how long the nice weather trend lasts and when there could be some rain for your weekend plans. My Weather Authority forecast.
Tonight, the world mourns the loss of an icon. Longtime British monarch Queen Elizabeth II has passed away. She ruled for 70 years, coronated in 1952 when she was only 25 years old. Queen Elizabeth was England's longest-serving monarch, tasked with serving as head of the country through 7 decades. British Prime Minister Liz Truss says her impact on the modern world has been undeniable.
Britain is the great country it is today because of her. She ascended the throne just after the Second World War. She championed the development of the Commonwealth from a small group of 7 countries to a family of 56 nations, spanning every continent of the world. We are now a modern, thriving, dynamic nation.
Queen Elizabeth II was 96 years old. The Queen's eldest son, Charles, will be the next King of England. He'll take the name Charles III, although the coronation may not be held for several months. Elizabeth's coronation was some 14 months after she became queen. Charles is 73 years old. The Queen's grandson, William, is now second in line. Well, the Queen had her fair share of Maryland connections in her illustrious life. On the left, President George Bush invited her to the Orioles game in 1991, and a huge roar at Memorial Stadium when she took the field and waved to fans. 32,500 fans were ecstatic to get a glimpse of the Queen. On the right, the Queen attended exactly 1 football game in her life, Maryland's win over North Carolina back in 1957. She stayed around to meet fans and receive flowers after the game. Still ahead, a suspect in custody after fatally stabbing a reporter on his front lawn in Las Vegas. Why police say the attack is a threat to journalism. A massive bankruptcy sum for the Boy Scouts of America. How each of the more than 80,000 victims could be paid. A stunning story is unfolding in Las Vegas. A county official arrested in the murder of a journalist who wrote an investigative piece on him earlier this year. Tonight, Lauren Clark from our Sinclair sister station in Las Vegas has an update from police.
Well, in a press conference today, the sheriff called this case an unusual one from the start. A veteran investigative reporter right here in Las Vegas stabbed to death outside of his home in broad daylight. The prime suspect, an elected official, and the subject of his investigations. Police say Robert Tellis, the Clark County public administrator, was an early suspect after he lashed out on Gehrman on his Twitter and website. Tellis was the focus of an investigation of workplace harassment, bullying, and favoritism. He lost his primary shortly after the stories were published. Police released surveillance video of the suspect wearing a wide-brimmed hat and safety vest in an apparent attempt to conceal his identity. Police say they were able to connect Tellis to the crime from a tip that linked his car to the one leaving the scene. From a search warrant, investigators also found shoes matching the suspect with blood and the straw hat cut up in what police say was an attempt to conceal evidence. Officers say DNA also matched Tellis to the homicide.
We expect journalism to be open and transparent and a watchdog for government. And when people take it upon themselves to create harm associated with that profession, I think it's very important that we put all eyes on and address the case appropriately, such as we did in this case.
And Tellis is expected in court today. He's currently booked on one case of open murder.
Nearly $2.5 billion is headed to the Boy Scouts as part of a reorganization plan. The bankruptcy plan settles claims for more than 80,000 men who say they were abused by troop leaders and allows the Boy Scouts to keep functioning. Lawyers for the victims say the amount an individual survivor gets from the bankruptcy plan will depend on the facts of each case. After 2 scrub launches, NASA is hoping its launch to Artemis moon rocket by the end of the month. Now, the space agency plans to conduct another fueling test after making repairs to leaky tanks. If the latest testing does not go well, liftoff could be delayed at least another month. Let's take a look at tomorrow's headlines right now. A Baltimore City student is expected to announce a lawsuit against the Board of School Commissioners, saying she was attacked by a special education teacher. There will be public comment on the Maryland Sports Wagering Commission's meeting. They begin to accept applications from online sports betting retailers earlier this week. And Mayor Brandon Scott and Governor Larry Hogan will be on hand as the Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital celebrates its 100th birthday.
After a couple of days of clouds, finally clearing skies. Take a look. Mile 1 Townsend, gorgeous 67 degrees. Winds right of the west at about 3 miles an hour. Humidity 84%. Dew points in the low 60s. That's our measure of moisture in the air. When that dew point's around 60, doesn't feel too bad outside. The nearest showers at this point, they're way down there into the Carolinas, as well as down into Atlanta, Georgia, southbound into Florida, and way west in the Midwest. So there's acres, I should say, of clear skies coming our way, and that'll be tonight, tomorrow, and into Saturday. Then things are going to start to change, unfortunately. Temperatures right now, 60s to near 70 area-wide. Got some 50s already popping up in some of the higher elevations around Deep Creek Lake and north into northern Pennsylvania, central northern New York as well. And fair weather high pressure is to thank for all this nice weather. There's our latest weather maker that basically took days to get through here. Now finally down to our south and our east, but unfortunately it may start coming back at us eventually over the weekend. You see that rain still festering tomorrow, although we're seeing some nice sunshine here in Baltimore. And by Saturday, starting to move north, so clouds come back, and potentially Sunday afternoon, there could be some showers in the forecast as we wrap up the state fair. Now, Earl, that's a Category 1 hurricane now, actually weakened down to 90 miles an hour, but looks like as we work our way through the next several days, could become a Category 2, maybe even a Category 3, perhaps, as it moves over the open Atlantic and away from Bermuda, which is getting a lot of swells out of that. Then there's a 60% chance of development out of this batch of cloud cover that's over the central portion of the Atlantic. And in the eastern Atlantic, there's a low chance of development that has a 30% chance of gaining some tropical characteristics, maybe becoming a tropical depression over the next 5 to 10 days. So future scan for now. Overnight, we've got some mainly clear skies setting up. Temperature settling into the 50s most areas to near 60 in the mild spots. For tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., the commute looks good. Open those windows again. By lunchtime, we're well into the 70s to near 80. And by later in the afternoon, 5 p.m., 81 degrees Baltimore, 81 degrees at Cockeysville. And then we see another comfortable overnight Friday night into Saturday before humidity does begin to come back by the end of the weekend, along with that rain chance. 64 tonight, mostly clear skies and seasonable. Again, a lot of 50s going to be popping up as well, I think. So maybe even a light jacket tomorrow morning, heading to the State Fair tomorrow perhaps, or just go to work. 82 degrees and lots of sun. Seasonable warmth. Your 7-day forecast keeps you at 82 on Friday, Saturday 81. Sun goes over to clouds later in the day, and we could see some showers around on Sunday. Not a perfect day there, unfortunately, but Saturday looking good. And then 81 on Monday. Humidity is going to be certainly increased as we work our way Monday, Tuesday with showers and thunderstorms, and then 80 to 85 lower humidity levels by Wednesday and Thursday. And by the way, there also is a coastal flood advisory in effect overnight tonight. A high tide at Annapolis. I believe it's at about 5 or 5:04 in the morning, coming up early tomorrow morning, and that could run about 1.5 to 2 feet. Compromise Street as well as the City Dock parking lot could have some flooding there. So if you see any water that's in the way of your path, turn around, don't drown, choose an alternate route.
New cancer study looks at a dramatic rise in cancer rates in those 50 and younger. But there are a few things you can do to lower your risk. I'm Liz Bonus. We share them just ahead.
A new report shows a dangerous trend surrounding cancer in young people, how our pandemic lifestyle habits could be contributing to a trend. Liz Bonus has that story.
Hey there, hello to you. This new study shows a dramatic rise in cancer rates in people younger than 50. Researchers in Nature Reviews Clinical Oncology said this started decades ago, but likely will continue to climb if we don't change a few lifestyle habits that have been on the rise in this pandemic time.
Jeff James has made a few of those lifestyle changes. He came in for a routine colonoscopy.
I was 88 days shy of my 51st birthday, so I was a little late.
Only to hear his doctor at Ohio's Tri-Health Cancer Institute tell him,
He said, I think we have cancer.
luckily it was detected early enough
Just a routine screening.
that he is now cancer-free. In colon cancer, more screening options do lend to some of these higher cancer detection numbers from this study in younger people.
So, for instance, we can do DNA stool testing, fecal immunohistochemistry, and even CT scans using a CT colonography to be able to try to detect masses and tumors.
In addition to colon cancer, breast, esophagus, kidney, liver, and pancreas cancers went up, according to researchers in this study, all since the beginning of the 1990s. Changes in our lifestyle may have something to do with this as well. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, more of us are eating processed foods. We are exercising less and sitting more. We are using more tobacco and drinking more alcohol. Changing just a few of these habits, Jeff James found, has other benefits too.
I'm a type 2 diabetic. My A1C is so much more manageable. I'm down almost 3 points from pre-surgery, so diet has a tremendous amount to do with that.
By the way, those steps add up. So even if you can't do all of them, choosing just a few can help turn the trend around. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Guys, we'll throw it back to you.
An off day for the O's after dropping 3 of 4 to their AL East foe. With 25 games remaining, a look at how the Birds stack up in the AL wild card. Well, that's all for us on the late edition. Thank you for watching. I'm Kai Jackson. Now here's Rocco DeSangra with Sports Unlimited. Rocco.
Yeah, Kai, a brand new NFL season is officially underway, but the Ravens will have to wait a few more days to kick off their 2022 campaign. This Sunday, the tailgates, the football spreads, and Baltimore's favorite football team are all back. Morgan Adsit has a preview from Owings Mills.
Week 1 has arrived. Well, for 2, the Bills and Rams tonight. For the Ravens, Jets, and the rest of the NFL, they still need a few more sleeps until the first Sunday of the 2022 season. For these Ravens, they are eager to get on the field, especially the seasoned vets who rested all of preseason and haven't had real NFL snaps since January when last season ended, some even longer due to injury.
I'm kind of itching, so it's good to have this feeling going into week 1.
We're tired of going against each other, practicing against each other, waking up early to see each other all day, not seeing another opponent. We're very eager right now.
A big season is expected for Lamar Jackson and company inside and outside this building. While health still is not 100% in Owings Mills, the Ravens' biggest need right now this season is from their youth. Rookie debuts of center Tyler Linderbaum and safety Kyle Hamilton, and huge second-year jumps needed from new leaders on the depth chart, receiver Rashad Bateman and pass rusher Odafe Owe.
I feel rejuvenated, I feel hyped, excited. Finally, get the chains off me and, just ball, just have fun.
I just hope I can go out there, play with the love that I got, because when the game was taken from me, I took it for granted for a little bit, so I'm just going to leave it all on the field.
As far as practice notes from today, still no rookie defensive lineman Travis Jones. He's expected to miss some weeks' time. Tight end Nick Boyle missed practice today, and left tackle Ronnie Stanley. Those were 2 new additions. Stanley was limited yesterday in practice with that surgically repaired ankle. His status for week 1 still remains in question. Reporting in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Atzett for Sports Unlimited.
Thank you, Morgan. While the Ravens' regular season is set to begin, the O's regular season is winding down. But unlike the last 5 years, this is a team in the midst of a playoff push. Dropping 3 of 4 to the Blue Jays wasn't ideal by any means. 25 games remain on their schedule, 6 of them against Toronto. So that final wildcard spot is still very much in reach. Here's a look at the current American League wildcard standings. The Rays, Mariners, and Blue Jays hold those top 3 spots. The O's trail Toronto by 4.5 games. Then the Twins and White Sox follow. Birds had the night off. They'll be in Boston for 3 with the Red Sox beginning Friday night. Mondays don't always stink, do they? No. Morgan State will bring back wrestling beginning in 2023, and they've tabbed Kenny Monday as their head coach. He's an Olympic gold medalist, National Wrestling Hall of Famer. Now he'll lead the way for the Bears as they make their return to the mat.
After 25 years, wrestling is back at Morgan State. I'm so excited. Was really brokenhearted when it dropped the program back in '96. I'm excited about this opportunity. It's been a long process, and I'm so excited to get back to work.
The Tiafoe Show begins in less than 24 hours as PG County's own takes the court yet again. After beating Andre Rublev in straight sets, Francis Tiafoe will face Carlos Alcaraz in the U.S. Open semis. With a win, he could become the first American male to reach the U.S. Open final since 2006. Maryland represent. That's it for this edition of Sports Unlimited. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.